The Sharks make their first set of roster cuts, and we'll get to see Joe Thornton back on the ice this November.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Western Conference Tuesdays on the Locked On NHL channel. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen, proudly part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. If you want to be an everyday, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. And today, we're going to be breaking down the first set of roster cuts that the Sharks have made, what to look for in preseason game 2 on Tuesday night versus the Ducks, and Joe Thornton back on the ice in some form for the alumni games. So before we get to all that, do want to let you guys know that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. So the San Jose Sharks did make their first set of roster moves, and you'll start to see this kind of whittling down. We'll see a bigger cut kind of coming up here soon as right before the Barracuda open up their training camp. This doesn't mean that these players are no longer with the organization. They're just not going to make the final team. And most of these guys are going to be like junior guys who are going to be heading back to go play with their teams in, the WHL or the CHL or OHL or whichever organization. Or they're going to be part of the Barracuda camp. So don't think that these guys are we're never going to see these guys again. This is just kind of how the process works, right? Is you, especially with young players, you want to bring them in, let them get a bit of a taste of kind of the coaching staff, right? And working with other professionals and see if some of these habits can start to rub off on them. And then when they go back to their junior programs, they can implement a lot of these systems into place and work on the things that, the coaches and the staff tell them they need to work on when they go back to their normal teams. So no fret, if you see, I know seeing it cut, waivers, seeing it cut it if you're like an NFL fan or whatever, it's okay, that's that person's contract's done. That's not what it is kind of what it means for the Sharks. So so let's go through it. Nolan Burke, the forward. So they sent back 7 forwards, 4 defensemen, and 2 goalies. They're down to 56 players. Just as a reminder, 23 is the opening night roster, so they still have some more work to do there. But the forwards, Nolan Burke, who is part of the Askarov trade, he's definitely one of those ECHL, AHL type of players. I thought he's had, at least he had a really good rookie tournament. We'll see if he can kind of continue that in the Barracuda camp. Joe Carroll, Luke Granger, Ivan Lodina. Ivan Lodina is on a PTO, so he will continue his PTO with the Barracuda. See if he can maybe win a job there, just like what we saw last season from Justin Bailey. Nathan Pilling, Donovan Villanueva-Hoyle, and Carson Wetch. So Carson Wetch, one of the draft picks from this season, he will be heading back to go play with the Calgary Hitmen. He is heading back to the CHL again. All of these younger guys, it's either NHL or CHL, same thing with Quentin Musty. So getting him back as the WHL, I think they've already kicked off their regular season. Getting Carson Wetch is, going to be a big piece of Calgary and what they're doing this year. Makes a ton of sense there. On defense, Jeremy Buechler, Gannon Laroque, Nate Miskey, and Colton Roberts. So Miskey and Roberts will both also be going back to their teams as well as they continue, again, nothing unexpected there, as both those guys are supposed to be big parts of their WHL teams and what they're expected to do. A little surprising for me to see Laroque cut so quickly down to the Barracuda, but it's probably just a matter of time. And right now they're trying to be able to get guys who they want to see play games, get them to see play some games, right? You only have so many scrimmages. You only have so many preseason games. You have to be smart with your numbers there, right? You can only dress normal amount of players. It's not like you have expanded rosters in these games or anything like that. Like you have to kind of play your normal 12 or 20 skaters, and you have your 2 goalies that you can swap in and out. And we saw that on Sunday night with the goalies. But it's not like they have expanded rosters for the preseason. It's something that would be fun to explore, but that's a discussion for a different day. Then Dawson Cohen got sent back. So he was kind of on a tryout from, I believe it was Spokane, if I recall correctly. And then Aaron Dell, who I think is just going to be kind of hanging out, maybe some insurance if Askarov's not ready to go or something like that. I think he's some insurance for the Barracuda. And since he's basically just lives there anyway, you might as well get paid to come in and hang out as well. So, I think nothing too surprising there. Like I said, maybe the Gannon Laroque one would have been a little bit surprising, but like nothing that where you're just kind of like, okay, that's a lot, that's a little unexpected. This currently puts their roster at 32 forwards, 19 defensemen, and 5 goaltenders right now. Again, we know, Askarov is still kind of dealing with some issues. We'll see when we get him actually on the ice here, hopefully sooner rather than later. But all these other guys are under contract. Blackwood and Vitek Vanacek are still expected to be your starters. Romanov in the Barracuda, and Gabriel Carrier, who they signed as a free agent last year, is probably going to be that AHL, ECHL guy who kind of bounces back and forth, at least amongst the goaltenders. Nothing too surprising here, at least when it comes to the forwards and the defensemen here. I think all the tryout guys are still one tryout guy left from Quick Scan. Joey Keane, who was in the KHL last year. So he's still kind of hanging out as a potential tryout guy. But yeah, nothing where everybody who's still on the team kind of makes sense to still be on the team as of right now. So, yep, that's the first wave. We'll get some more here pretty soon as well, especially right before Barracuda camp breaks down. That's when you kind of see a big wave of them. And as guys start to head to Barracuda camp. Yeah, so NHL waivers start 12 days before the start of the regular season. So we'll start to see those go into effect. And that's when you'll start to see players getting kind of sent down to the Barracuda, especially some of these veteran players who the Sharks specifically signed for the Barracuda but are still in NHL contracts. They'll have to start going through that waiver process. And then the other kind of big date to keep in mind here is October 7th is the final roster cut down. Like that is when the final rosters have to you need to be cap compliant, which the Sharks don't need to worry about because they have a ton of money. That's when your final roster, your opening night roster needs to be kind of set. That doesn't mean things can still change, but you need to have your 23-man roster cap compliant, good to go, starting from that day, October 7th. So, yeah, we're just getting into training camp here, guys. So, we're going to continue by looking at what you should be looking for as the Sharks start their second preseason game on Tuesday night versus the Anaheim Ducks. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. Hey, NFL fans, if you want to start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, so when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Right now, the Dolphins and the under feels really good until they get Tua back. That's FanDuel.com. All right, guys, before we continue, do want to thank you guys for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. For your second listen, go check out one of the other great shows on the Locked On Network, right? You have Locked On Fantasy Hockey. So if you want to get ready for your fantasy draft, you have Locked On Prospects. You want to learn about all the new players in the upcoming draft. I think right now they're ranking the prospect pools. So you can have to continue to wait before they get to the Sharks. Or check out anything here in the Bay Area, right? Locked On Niners, Locked On Warriors, Locked On A's, Locked On Giants, wherever you get podcasts. And of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. So, Sharks do take on the Anaheim Ducks on Tuesday night at 7 p.m. And here's what I'm watching for. Number one, Will Smith, I think, is expected to make his Teal debut. I'm not expecting what we saw from Celebrini, but can we again kind of see those flashes that we've talked about is from these young players, right? Is what can we see what makes you such a special player? And I'm not trying to be like hard on these guys and ask, because I know what these guys are kind of some of the stuff that they're going through and trying to make the jump. But still, would like to see Will Smith just do some stuff where you're like, okay, yeah. And I think, Macklin, we talked about on after the Sunday night game where he looks like he just looks like an NHL player, right? Coming out of the game, like he looks like someone who belongs in the NHL just because of what he does and how he kind of plays the game. Can we see kind of the same thing from Will Smith, right? Is just make it look like you are an NHL player like that. That's I feel like that's not too much to ask. We've seen a lot of great highlights from Smith playing in, in some of the preseason stuff or like some of the camp stuff. And, and I think for Smith, like should have a pretty solid line as well. I know he's been playing with Barclay Goodrow, but having Fabian Zetterlund also on his line, we know what Fabian Zetterlund is. I think, and then if Alex Wennberg, I assume Alex Wennberg is going to be kind of the other top center. Can we just see Will Smith, I think, show us some flashes? So that's the first thing I'm looking for. Second thing I'm looking for is whatever young defensemen are in this game, like, can you give us something, give us some splashes, right? Cagnoni set the bar very high, I think, on Sunday night. Cagnoni was definitely a treat to watch on Sunday night. I'm not sure if Cagnoni gets back out there. We'll see. I hope we see like Sam Dickinson back out there. I know, again, like you only have so many guys and you're trying to balance that. Some of these young guys playing versus some of the veterans playing. Hopefully, though, especially early in the preseason now since we're in game 2, can we see Dickinson? I want to see Dickinson hopefully play again. I want to see if Cagnoni if he gets out there again, can he repeat the process? And maybe they get paired with some different veterans. Since we saw Cody Ceci and Mario Ferraro, maybe we see like Matt Benning and like Jan Ruda in this game. I think would make sense for like something like that, especially for Matt Benning, who's been coming back from this injury. I'm sure he would like to just get out on the ice and play like a preseason game just to kind of get his feet underneath him. So that's kind of what I'm, kind of looking for right there. And I think some of these other bubble players, right, is a big thing. Like Thomas Bordelot, who, didn't play on Sunday night. I'm assuming he's probably going to play in this game. What do you do with your opportunity, right? Can you kind of start to win a job here? I assume he's going to get an opportunity to play. Like I would be shocked if we see a lot of the same, especially among the forward group, a lot of the same guys. Maybe a guy like Quentin Musty gets to play again on Tuesday night, but I want to see some of these bubble guys. What do you kind of do with your opportunity, right? We saw Colin Graff, I think, had a pretty good game. Very much a bubble guy. Delandria I think played well in his role as well on Sunday night. What happens with like a Carl Grunstrom or Thomas Bordeleau or some of these other kind of bubble guys? What do you do to try to kind of set yourself apart from some of these guys? So those are going to be the big things I'm looking for. And I'm assuming we get Vitek Vanacek in this game. I want to see Vitek Vanacek. Is he healthy? How's that hip? He coming off a lower body injury. How does he look? How does his movement look especially from side to side? Can he compete, right? He's kind of the forgotten man when you talk about Blackwood and Askarov, and then Vitek Vanacek's kind of the forgotten man, especially since Sharks traded for him last year and we didn't even see him at all last season. So how does he start his kind of campaign here? So there's plenty of good stuff to watch. Again, like the results don't matter if the Sharks lose like 6-1. I mean, it'd be disappointing, but it's very much process of results right now. Are you seeing the young players who you think are going to be big cogs take a step forward? And this Ducks team is going to probably be rolling out a lot of their young players too. So it's kind of a nice little, I don't want to say measuring stick, but you definitely want to kind of peek over the fence and see what your neighbors are doing occasionally. And I think this is a good opportunity for the Sharks to kind of see how's Leo Carlson, Mason McTavish, Trevor Zegras as he comes back from health. Like, do the Sharks have the horses to eventually compete with these guys? Because I still say these are going to be the two big teams in the next few years in the Pacific, just because of where they are at in their rebuild. And I know that the Ducks had a huge head start, but it feels very much like the Sharks are catching up to the Ducks, at least when you look at the prospect pool for sure. But guys are going to be starting to graduate from their prospect pool to NHL players. So I do kind of want to see that, like, how do the young Ducks players look and how do the Sharks handle some of these young Ducks players as well. So I'm pretty excited. I know it's frustrating that it's geocached or geolocked or to kind of Bay Area people to watch the stream. I think you can still listen to it. Dan Ruzansky, of course, is the best in the business. There's a reason why he's in the Hall of Fame. So you can still listen to the game. I'll be providing updates on social media as well. So I'll just plug, you can follow me on my fry hole, where you'll get a bunch of updates, and then like big highlights you'll see on the Locked On Sharks Instagram page as well. So, just plugging that out there right now. So I've got you covered if you can't watch the game. And then of course we will have a recap of the game as well. So if you're not able to make the game, not able to watch the game, we've got you covered here at Locked On Sharks. So next though, we're going to talk about an old friend, Joe Thornton, returning to the ice, at least for one night. So we'll get to that here in just 1 second. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. So join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/lockedon. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/lockedon. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed. And PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. All you need to do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Right now, they have some special in the NFL. 1 Caleb Williams passing yard, gets you 1 win on PrizePicks each week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on PrizePicks because it's gone when September ends. You can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. And the great thing too is if you live in California like I do, PrizePicks is the best way to get on action on most states, including California, Texas, and Georgia. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNHL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNHL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win and receive a $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game. All right, let's finish up with Joe Thornton. So the Sharks announced, as we all kind of expected, but it's still good to see, these Sharks announced the alumni game, their second annual alumni game or Legends game that they're going to have on Friday, November 22nd, featuring Joe Thornton. Of course, the next night, Joe Thornton will get his jersey retired, joining Patrick Marleau as the two players in franchise history to have their jerseys retired. Legends expected to be in attendance, so I'm just going to read through them all. Mark Bell, Rob Blake, Brian Boucher, Dan Boyle, Mike Brown, Jonathan Chichu, Ryan Clough, Rob Davidson, Jason Demers, Andrew Desjardins, Niels Ekman, TJ Gillardy, Mike Greer. I hope Mike Greer is there. That'd be weird if he wasn't. Michael Haley, Scott Hanna, Danny Heatley, Kent Huskins, Patrick Marleau, Jimmy McGinn, Kyle McLaren. Kyle McLaren needs to bring the yellow. Oh, I hope Kyle McLaren plays and he has the yellow thing. Anyway, Torrey Mitchell, Douglas Murray, Nabokov, Scott Nickel, Scott Parker, Joe Pavelski, Tom Peterson, Mike Ritchie, Patrick Rissmiller, Craig Rivet, John Scott, Alexei Simonov, Devin Setaguchi, James Shepard, Mark Smith, Alex Stalek, Scott Thornton, Rafi Torres, and Tommy Wingle. So this doesn't mean they're all going to play, but hopefully some of them play. Some of them will play, right? We saw last year, right? Patrick Marleau was surrounded by his family. They were all his boys were playing, et cetera, et cetera. So free promo from the Sharks. I think they're going to have tickets go on sale the 25th at 9 a.m. for like you get a $10 discount for VIPs and stuff. So go check that out. Like, it's going to be fun. But it made me think, like, they should try to do something like this every year. No, like, we're not retiring jerseys every year, and I don't think the Sharks should be one of those franchises that has like 50,000 jerseys retired. Like, I really like that it's like the cream of the crop of like players who are getting their jersey retired. In Patrick Marleau and Joe Thornton, and there's plenty to debate on who should be the third person to join them up there. But the idea of this alumni game, like once a year, and especially this time where the Sharks are kind of going through this transition of, you know, the future is teal, right? And the organization is going to be in the hands of Celebrini and Smith and Eklund, you know, a bunch of these young players. I think having this alumni game sometime maybe in the holiday season, sometime between kind of American Thanksgiving and Christmas, and having that, it's almost like a homecoming weekend for a lot of these players. And a lot of these players work for the organization, right? Joe Thornton, in whatever role he, director of vibes, etc. Patrick Marleau, like, there's a bunch of these guys work for the organization. And yes, I know it's hard to get it, but like, to get everyone to kind of come for a weekend. But I think it would be a cool idea to have this, especially if the Sharks play, you have this game on a Friday night, Saturday night, the Sharks kind of, maybe you just make it almost like a homecoming weekend, where you have like just wall-to-wall hockey, where Friday night you have this alumni game, maybe Saturday afternoon you have a Barracuda game, and then Saturday night you have the Sharks game, and maybe it's a rivalry game like against the Ducks or against the Kings, like one of our kind of established rivals or something like that. And then Sunday, like maybe you do like a big meet and greet with some of the players who are not too hungover. But I just think there's a way to kind of turn this into something really cool that, like, I think as fans are starting to get reconnected with the Sharks, especially after the last couple seasons of it being, it's been brutal, right? Watching the Sharks hockey, there's been little to nothing to get excited about, and there's a lot of excitement. I think this is a way to kind of continue to grow, new fans, because you can learn about the legends, especially younger fans, and like, hey, who's this guy Joe Thornton, or who's this guy Patrick Marleau, who are some of these other guys, that all their friends, right? And a way for old fans who are maybe starting to kind of come back after this past couple of years to get to know the young guys. So I would love the Sharks to try to figure out a way to make this, working with the NHL, working with the AHL, like, we make this a yearly thing. And whether it's maybe the weekend before Thanksgiving, right, where it is just like Sharks homecoming weekend, where you have all the alumni on Friday night. Saturday, again, Barracuda games. Some of the alumni can show up to that, especially some of the maybe like AHL type of legends, as they've gone through there. You can have, and then like that NHL, like Saturday night, make it about, some of those guys, and kind of do something during the intermissions where maybe you highlight some of them or whatever it is. But I think it's a great way to potentially kind of just bring something new and bring something old all together. So I love it. I'm excited for it. I probably won't be able to go because it's my son's birthday, my youngest son's birthday. So I think I'm going to be full on dad duties for birthday parties, all that fun stuff. But, I'm very much looking forward to the highlights. I think they streamed it last time, if I recall, or something like that. So it sounds like it looked like it was a blast last year. And I know the Sharks are going to just, if they're anywhere close to the Patrick Marleau jersey retirement, the Joe Thornton one is just going to be a thing of beauty as well. So I'm very excited for that weekend. I can't wait to see what the Sharks roll out. We know, like, when this type of stuff, the Sharks take care of their guys. Like, this is going to be a huge event that we're going to talk. I mean, we talked about the Patrick Marleau thing for like that was one of the highlights of the year with the Patrick Marleau jersey retirement. I think this is also going to be up there, the Joe Thornton jersey retirement. I'm sure when we get closer to it, we'll dig more into Joe Thornton and his career and all that fun stuff. So that's going to be it for me today. We'll be back tomorrow to break down the Sharks preseason game against the Ducks. Hopefully we'll see Will Smith, kind of see which of these young players take advantage of their opportunities. So that's right. We know it's a battle. Every spot is available. Who can take advantage of their opportunities? So make sure you guys, again, follow along wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. Follow the show on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at Locked On Sharks. Follow me on Twitter at MyFryHole. Till tomorrow.